Hey everyone, Michael Anthony here. Van Halen, Chickenfoot, Sammy in the Circle. But anyway, you're listening to the only podcast that is dedicated to breaking down the entire Van Halen catalog one track at a time. And the podcast will rock. Ow!
Hello, baby!
Hey, welcome back, all you rockers, rockettes, and everything in between, for joining us for a new edition of And the Podcast Will Rock. Welcome back. Lovely to have you. If it's your first time joining us on this podcast, well, hello. And what we do here is we dive into the catalog and discography of one of the greatest rock and roll bands of all time, Van Halen. And we do it one track at a time. I am your co-host, Mark Kamire. With me, as always, Corey Morissette. Corey, is it beginning to get a little chilly up there?
Chilly. It was 34 degrees Celsius today, which is definitely not chilly. It's nowhere near the heat wave they're getting in the southern states right now. Like, I can't even imagine. Are you over 100 degrees yet there, Mark?
Yeah, but then we've been getting a lot of rain, and that's sort of been the saving grace because it makes that humidity go away. That's the problem where I'm at. It's not so much the straight up heat, it's the humidity. When you have 100-degree weather on top of humidity that swelters and it feels like it's 110 plus. That's Fahrenheit, mind you. That's when things get tricky. That's when things get miserable. But luckily, we've had a lot of rain to accompany it, so the humidity has not been bad. However, when it's hot, it's hot.
Yeah, I just looked it up. 34 Celsius is 93 Fahrenheit. So
that's still hot. That's still pretty hot. So, well, there you go. No blizzard in your immediate future.
No, I'm not complaining at all. Please, weather gods, I'm not complaining. I'm happy with 34. That's all good.
He's happy with it, so leave him be. Leave the entire province of Saskatchewan alone, weather wizard. Anywho, but that's not why they tune in. Corey, they don't tune in for the weather reports. Even though we do give them weather reports, they tune in for the Van Halen talk. And it's just you and I tonight, man. No guests. Everybody was, I guess I'll just assume everyone's busy. Everyone's taking time. And Corey and I, the show must go on. So you get just the solo of the pair of us, if that's indeed solo at all. But hello to our lurkers in the chat. If you are on our Patreon, that's right, we have a Patreon. I've mentioned it several times, and I'm going to keep mentioning it. You can be a lurker, which means you can actually watch the recording process. So all the things you guys are listening to once the podcast goes out, you're not privy to the mess ups, the over ad libs, or just sometimes we fuck up. Let me just say, sometimes we fuck up. And if you want to be privy to those fuck ups, join the Patreon, and you can be a lurker in the chats. Like we've got a few people in there. So welcome to you lurkers. And for those of you not a lurker, join the Patreon. Be a lurker. We don't mind.
No, we'd miss you when you're not here. We currently have Kevin, Tom, and Josh, I believe, in the chat, helping us celebrate episode 91 of the old show here tonight. We're not going to have Scott Manifesto Monroe, though. He's off enjoying a concert tonight. He's watching Extreme and Living Color. So I'm a little bit jealous.
No apologies to Gary necessary. He's going to go get a good eye full of Extreme and Living Color. That's what a twofer. Corey, I'm just going to address something that has been on my mind for a whole week, and that's because it's been brought to my attention several times. Last week, we went over the song As Is from the album A Different Kind of Truth. And I know it's from A Different Kind of Truth. As I was making the social media posts, it was all there. However, apparently, and I haven't gone back to listen to the episode, but apparently I kept saying this album was coming from, or the song came from the album Women and Children First. That's obviously a mistake on my part, but I apparently did it so many times that a lot of people had to bring it up. So to you, the listener, who I'm sure if you manage to survive beating your own head against the wall listening to my fuck ups, I apologize to you. It's never my intention to cause any sort of brain injury, self-inflicted or otherwise. It's never my intention. So stop beating your head against the wall. If you're listening to that episode, or if you had listened to it, don't do that. I acknowledge my mistake. So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention, because look, I'm not an expert. I'm not a rock historian. I am not even a podcasting professional, whatever the hell that means. I'm just simply a dude talking into a microphone, and sometimes the microphone picks up my fuck ups. So there you go. And Corey's not perfect either. So Corey's usually pretty good about being the extraordinary producer he is, but even sometimes little things slip through the cracks. So don't be mad at Corey, be mad at me for having the fuck ups in general. Okay, so to all of you who are so bothered by that, I apologize. Obviously, the track as is comes from a different kind of truth. Are we good? Everybody good? It's all good.
No, I'm not. You're not an expert. Everybody drink.
Everybody drink. I'm not an expert. There you go. Maybe that explains why I kept fucking up the album title. Just a dude talking to a microphone, asking you to love me. Yes, essentially. Isn't that why we do this? To spread the love of the thing we're talking about, and then also to receive that love as well, because we're empty. We're empty people. We podcasters. Except for Corey, because Corey is just the devourer of podcasting worlds, and you're all going to be part of the CMPU before long.
I'm the Unicron of the podcasting universe. I just watched Transformers, so that's why I knew that reference. That's right. Yep. That's why I knew that reference. But I got to apologize to you, because normally I try and catch that stuff. But a little peek behind the curtain. If I don't notice it when we're recording it and I'm going to edit the next day, I kind of just shuttle through really fast and just take out like any big pauses or any fuck ups I remember the night before. But I didn't recall you calling As Is from Women and Children first, so I just kind of let it be, and I let it slide. And I'm sorry for that. I'll do much better to catch that when we cover tonight's song, Pound Cake, from the album Van Halen 2.
Woohoo! From Van Halen 2, classic Sammy Hagar from Van Halen 2. It wasn't good enough the first time. They made it better the second time. That's right. Oh, wait. Sammy's not in Van Halen 2. Oh, whoop, my bad. We're not experts, you guys. Drink again.
Drink? Oh, boy. Here we go. I'm going to get drunk tonight. This is great.
Oh, there you go.
Tom says, I'd make the Sally Field... Tom goes, I'd make the Sally Field You Love Me reference, but I'm not sure anyone's going to get it. I'm old. I totally get it.
I get it. I love that Tom wrote you loke me instead of love, but we understood what you meant. So,
well, and
just like
Kevin Brown put just a dude talking into a microphone. So see, even the amazing Kevin Brown is prone to the odd mistake too.
See, you see that, you guys? Just it happens. Don't you want more real, authentic, raw podcasting rather than overly produced? See, we're not about that. If you want overly produced, go listen to a true crime podcast or some bullshit like that. I don't know. You come here for Van Halen talk by non-experts who just like listening to music and talking about it. So there you go. Kevin says
it's like
an English thing.
Yeah, it's an English thing. But it's like going to see a band and watching them mime to tracks, like Cardi B lip syncing an entire concert and then throwing a microphone at somebody. Like you want your rock and roll to be a little imperfect, don't you?
Yeah, not that imperfect, but yeah, imperfect. That's for sure. You at least try. If you're having a bad vocal day, at least try. But hey, what are you gonna do? Speaking of stage performances and everything like that, we know Wolfie is he's gearing up. He's got Mammoth ready to roll. What else is going on in the world of Van Halen news?
Well, I tell you what, that's the big one right now, because Wolfie, as you mentioned, Mammoth 2 comes out this Friday as we're recording this. So as the show drops, the album is going to drop. So he's doing kind of the media cycle right now. So there's a couple of good interview quotes from Wolfie. One is on the possibility of his uncle Alex playing live again. The interviewer in that question saw the Instagram post we all saw with Alex and his drum kit saying, does Alex still play? And if so, can anyone expect anything? And Wolfgang's like, I think it's a lot like him. He doesn't really want to play Van Halen stuff without his dad. And I imagine it's the same for Alex. Doesn't really want to play Van Halen stuff without Eddie, which is completely understandable. So he kind of, because a lot of people read into that picture, as we did too. I think we're on a live show talking about it, like, oh, Alex is tweeting pictures of his drums. Something going to happen? And like, no, maybe he just really likes his kit, and there's nothing wrong with that. So wouldn't hold your breath on that one. And also, they asked him about, performing Van Halen songs at the Taylor Hawkins tribute, and he talked about why he picked those two songs, how he thought his dad would have been pretty proud of that. And then the question kind of came around to, okay, there's a whole vault of unreleased Van Halen material. When are you and Al going to kind of get down and check that out? And he said, you know what, it was in the vault for a reason. He kind of gave the impression that Eddie released everything he wanted released. So if anything came out, it would be quite a while. So don't hold your breath on that one either. So just, kind of putting out the fire a little bit, which I totally get. Like, Prince had enough stuff in his vault for like 3 more lifetimes worth of releases. He could release an album every 6 months, right, and be good. But Eddie Van Halen, of course, had a ton of stuff in his vault. But, it was there for a reason. A lot of it unfinished, just ideas or stuff he didn't think was good enough. So if Wolfgang and Alex ever get into the vault and kind of put something together posthumously, obviously fans are going to love it. We're all going to eat it up. But if it doesn't happen, you gotta respect that fact too. And if Alex never plays Van Halen stuff live again, dude, I totally get it. I don't know if I would want to either if my brother was a virtuoso on the guitar.
Not to mention, it's just at this point, what does Alex have left to prove? Nothing at all. He's literally Alex Van Halen, the other half of the band Van Halen. Make no mistake about it, you guys. We've probably talked about it before, but it bears repeating. Just because they had various lineup changes throughout the years, and you can say that, well, definitive Van Halen is this era, or you say like, well, actually more like this era. No, definitive Van Halen is simply the Van Halen brothers. That's definitive Van Halen. It always has been, and it always will be. And that's no shade to any of the past members. It's no shade to Wolfie himself. It's just Van Halen was literally started and should be finished by the Van Halen brothers themselves. And since Eddie is no longer with us, sadly, it's all left to Alex. And if Alex doesn't want to do that anymore because the other half is gone, he's earned that right. He's got nothing to prove. We all know we're doing this podcast because of it. Okay. Like the legacy is cemented in, rock and roll stone and metal and whatever you want to call it. It's engraved. So I say if that's the way Alex wants to do it, and he just doesn't feel like playing another Van Halen song ever again for the remainder of his years, he has earned that right. Let's respect it. So there you have it.
Yep.
Now,
Joe, one more thing on the Van Halen news desk, and that's a link to Wolfie's new video, a song called "I'm All Right," which I don't know if you heard it, Mark, but it's pretty killer. It's maybe my new favorite track from that record. It's great. Video is cool, and his mom, Valerie Bertinelli, makes an appearance in it as well. So,
that's cool.
Yep.
Well, good stuff. So everyone be on the lookout for that for upcoming Mammoth. It is well on its way. We've been kind of semi-tracking it, documenting his progress with it. And I'm excited. I'm kind of waiting for all of it to drop before I really dive into it, but I'm excited. And there you go. If there's no other real Van Halen news, what do you say we move on over to the polls from last week? Poll.
It was an interesting one, I tell you.
It was interesting. I might have made a guess on how the results were going to go last week, but I can't remember what it was. But I'm pretty sure it wasn't going to be what I thought. So as mentioned before, the song As Is from A Different Kind of Truth. We went over that last week, and a kind of a whopping 89% What Dreams Are Made Of versus an 11% The Dream Is Over. I'm not surprised. I knew that As Is would probably get the majority thumbs up. I guess I'm kind of maybe expected this one to be higher, but 89% is still pretty good. What did you think?
Well, at 89% is the highest ranking on that album from our fans.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Yep. Eclipsing Stay Frosty, which was the leader for the longest time at 82.5%. Only 3 songs from this album currently 80% or higher. She's the Woman, Stay Frosty, and As Is. So I'm not really shocked, because a lot of people, when they're talking about A Different Kind of Truth, they mention As Is as being their favorite track, and it's probably my favorite track on that record too. And it did very, very well in the poll.
I do recall a lot of people mentioning, kind of just looking in passing, people mentioning this one was probably their favorite from the album. So what do you say we take a look at what they are saying here?
And I got to correct myself. There was a fourth track on that record that was over 80%. Blood and Fire, 81 points.
Oh, yes, of course. Well, there you go.
But you
so
voted
far,
no on, Mark.
Yeah, I did vote no on that one. I can't even remember how that one goes and why I voted no. I'll have to go back and revisit that little ditty of an episode. I might change my mind, but as it stands right now, nah. But let's see. Going to the Twitter feed on the poll, I'm going to read out some tweets from our patrons, because if you want your tweet guaranteed read on the show, join that Patreon that I mentioned earlier. We've got a tier for you. I guarantee it. And if we don't, we'll make it. Let us know what we can do. So just going through the list right here, and I will read off the Twitter the Patreon people here in just a bit. But just to give you an idea, from Sean Geek and Fast Fret Podcast, that's our friend Sean McGinnity. He says, "Damn, finished the episode too late. Finally caught up from the trip." He's been on a trip. Forgot about this song and cursed myself for it. This is simply great. Absolutely great. There you go. No explanation needed. He just really, really loved that song. So you were not late. In fact, Sean, you just made it. So there you go. Unless he's talking about the poll was closed before he could vote on it. But we'll just assume you are part of the 89%, sir. All right, moving on. Our buddy Ryan Powell says, "A shape-shifting barn burner that shouldn't work, with no fewer than 4 abrupt style changes, yet it somehow becomes greater than the sum of its parts. Heavy, plotting start with great toms, an up-tempo swing rocker, a bluesy ZZ Top-esque interlude, killer solo, as is, has it all." I don't disagree with that sentiment whatsoever. That's very, very well put. I guess I never noticed 4 abrupt style changes. I do remember that it does change dramatically, but like 4 times. I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to have to revisit that as well. But good catch on you there, Ryan. Our buddy Kevin Brown, who's one of our lurkers right now, he says, "Thunderously heavy intro dripping in Ed sauce. Bluesy as hell. Gotta say that the lyrics definitely work for me in a big way. Throwaway, sure, but they're rhythmically spot on. It's a real shame that Dave's voice was gone by this point. It sounds soupy to me," he says, soupy. He goes on to say, "Maybe it's an artifact of auto-tune, but the little spoken interstitials are great." I think that's how you say that word. You're using big words, Kevin. I can't read them. But he says, "I still find this really bass forward to the point that the riff is slightly buried. Killer straight ahead tapping solo, then that great breakdown into the clean tone boogie turnaround. Mix aside, this is grade A Van Halen. Hashtag what dreams are made of." So he kind of had a little mini festo of his own. If you care to elaborate more on that, Kevin, please feel free in the chat, because, we want to get to the bottom of your description of soupy. Tom Armbruster says, "Clam chowder?" So
that would be soupy.
Yeah. So explain yourself there, Kevin, in the chat. Scott Monroe says, "If this song were an X-Men character, it would be Mystique, because it morphs 4 or 5 different times into unique musical skins, all of which are badass in their own way. I agree with all of your observations, but also want to plug Wolf's subtle backing shouts on the sort of chorus." He does do, that is a good point. Wolfgang's background vocals he's got going on. But Scott goes on to say, "I also get Power Ranger vibes from the solo, Mark, so you're not alone there. I did mention that. The outro fade is otherworldly and beautiful. A perfect segue into the Alien on Acid intro of Honey Baby Sweetie Doll. Hashtag what dreams are made of." Oh, God, I completely forgot about that one. But you're not wrong. You're absolutely not wrong. So thank you, Scott, for that. And thank you for agreeing with me. And I was a little worried where you were going with that analogy, because Mystique is not my favorite X-Men character. As a matter of fact, the movies have ensured that I hope to never see her in another piece of X-Men media ever again. I'm so sick of Mystique. But in regards to your analogy, you're right. It works. So thank you for that. All right, moving on. Rava Flav says, "I like it." And that's it. That's all he said.
That's all you need to say.
Hey, right on, Blave. I feel like he wanted to say more and just decided, nah. He's like, I like it, and that's all. That's it. There's nothing more needs to be said. So right on, Rava Flav. I like that tweet. Our buddy Tarm Armbruster says, Dave, shut up. I want to hear the music. Hashtag what you know.
Love that one. Yeah.
Pretty sure he is making fun of me on that one. So, but I appreciate it. What is Kevin saying?
I can't think of another word. Soupy as in kind of thick and sludgy rather than clear and clean. Not sure if that makes any more sense.
You should have just said thick and slushy or sludgy, not slushy. So that's different. But no, that's, I got you now. That's cool. Thank you for clarifying that, Kevin. You're good people. Greg Zito says the band is cooking on this track. So I assume that's a good thing for him. Or I assume he's part of the 89%. But thank you, Greg. Jeff Brewer says, great song. Lyrics are a little goofy, but clever. Common with Dave. I think Ed should have been a little louder in the mix, but who am I to complain? It doesn't have my favorite solo, but this is the best all-around song on the album. My opinion, of course. Parentheses, but I'm right. He's a humble man, Jeff Brewer, but no, but I like your analysis, man. So yeah, much appreciated.
Yep.
And I think that does it for the patrons on Twitter. So there you go.
That's right. I saw one tweet on here that I wanted to call up because this lovely lady Janice has been following us for quite a while, and she came out comments on every poll, and she wrote, "Love it. You need to do something more. I love the podcast." And if she's listening, I just wonder what more do we need to do? What's that thing? I'm willing to go that extra mile for Janice. I'm just not sure what it is.
Let us know, Janice. We need to know what we need to do more of, Janice. So let us know. The work is never done.
That's right.
But we try so hard. But unless she's talking about what I had just talked about, being, we're not a polished up produced podcast. We fly from the hip. We do it raw. And Corey does the magic of editing for sure, but sometimes he's not gonna overcorrect where there needs correcting because that's just not authentic. So if that's what you're looking for, Janice, if you're looking for overcorrection and overly produced, we might not be the show for you. However, if you just enjoy two schlubs, an occasional extra schlubs talking about Van Halen, then hey, we're going to keep on doing what we do best. But let us know exactly what you mean when we should do more. If you're talking about the Patreon, well, hey, become a Patreon and we'll make that happen.
Is she talking about a little something more by DLR? If you are, Janice, yeah, the plan is once we burn through the last 33 Van Halen songs, is having, I didn't even know a little something more. I know a little ain't enough. Is a DLR song. I didn't know he had a song called A Little Something More. But if he does, it'll be on the solo wheel, which we're going to be covering in 34 weeks or so. If that
is what she's talking about, then it's David Roth, different dude. Damn it, Kevin. Well,
fuck Google.
Even so, Janice, if you're talking about a specific song title, then let us know so that we can course correct after that little rant I just went on. But it's what we do.
By the way, speaking of schlubs, if you're hearing little bings in the background on my feed, it's because I'm getting constant messages from one John Mariano, who is currently enjoying the Loverboy Foreigner concert in New York tonight. So he sent me a little snippet of the unofficial Canadian national anthem, Turn Me Loose by Loverboy. And he just messaged me again, over 12 minutes of Jukebox Hero. So Foreigner's on the stage now, and John's having the time of his life. So good on you, John.
First of all, that's the Canadian national anthem?
Turn Me Loose? Well, Working for the Weekend, I think, is probably the unofficial Canadian national anthem. But Turn Me Loose would be a close second, yeah.
Huh. Here I always thought it was Sunglasses at Night by Corey Hart. But
Oh, that's a good one, too. Yeah. We got a lot of good music up here. We should do a podcast on Canadian music. I've only got 4 podcasts. What do you say you want to start one just on Canadian tunes?
Well, as the non-Canadian who keeps getting drawn into Canadian chat, it seems on brand. Also, how does he send you 14 minutes of Jukebox Hero? How does that happen? 14 minutes?
It's a long version of Jukebox Hero, right? Like that's not even their it's not even their most popular song.
No, but like 14 minutes of it. What did they? And also, sorry, slight tangent because of Foreigner. Who is singing for Foreigner right now?
Oh, it's a God. I'm gonna forget his name. I'm gonna look it up so I don't get it wrong and people call me out.
Yeah. Because we know it's not the, unfortunately,
Kelly Hansen. Kelly Hansen. I knew that.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Kevin Brown. That's the worst damn song. Sunglasses at Night. You're gonna walk into something, dumbass. There you go. Yeah, it's not a smart thing. We don't recommend you walk around with your sunglasses at night. But
look, don't mess around with a guy in shades. You know, things can go bad. That's all I'm saying.
Very bad. Yes. But yes, Kelly Hansen is a great singer, and he's singing with Foreigner right now.
Fair enough. Cool. That was a legit question. I didn't know because I did not realize Foreigner was even going to go back on tour because, reasons.
Oh, it's their farewell tour that I put in quotes because they could go out in 2 years again. Who knows? But Josh correctly points out 14 minutes no longer feels like the first time, which is a better song than Jukebox Hero.
I feel like 14 minutes, you're no longer a jukebox hero. You are the jukebox. Like, you're the dictator. You're the jukebox dictator. Because look, right. I've been that guy. If I want to take over the jukebox in order to get people out of the establishment, I know which songs to play, and typically they're the long progressive tunes. So I know the game. I know what's happening there. Fair enough.
The ultimate one to play is "Supper's Ready" by Genesis because that song is legitimately 94 minutes long. I'm pretty sure I'm correct on that time too.
I believe you, but oh my God, no. I would normally just stick with like Arlo Guthrie's Alice's Restaurant Massacre, which is it's about 20 minutes, but still it's enough to get people out. Or if it's a non-metal vibe crowd, play any Dream Theater or play any Symphony X, and they'll get the hell out of there. So a little tidbit for you guys if you want to take over the jukebox. But that all being said, it's now time to do our other favorite thing. Grab your drink, say it with me, manifestations. Woohoo! That's right. Now we're going to manifest the track that we want to bring forth for tonight's show. I'm going to go on over to the Discord. Hey, if you want to join our Discord, guess what? Join the Patreon and you can be part of it. You can get involved in the conversation. There's always great conversations. There's even a channel for manifestations. So let's go on over. As mentioned, Scott Monroe, he's singing Extreme tonight, but he didn't want to leave us without a particular manifestation. He is going to manifest One I Want, which is, he said he wanted to manifest some Gary, so I'm assuming that's the track from Van Halen 3.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So, and I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that the one we're missing, or is it one of two that we have yet to do?
One of two. The other one is Josephina.
That's right. Okay, so Scott, I'm gonna spin it in a positive light. Scott wants to help us end that album once and for all, so that we don't have to talk about it anymore. So there you go. 1 for Van Halen 3 from Scott. Kevin Brown in the chat lurking. He said he wanted to manifest some balance. So let's get a little Aftershock.
All right.
That one, that's a fan favorite. A lot of you guys have been wanting Aftershock for a while, so maybe tonight's the night. Jeff Brewer says Summer Nights. That's another one. That kind of it's auspicious that one hasn't kind of come up more, considering we are in the summer season. But hey, maybe it's a little too obvious, maybe a bit on the nose. And then Tar Mumbruster says any track that finishes an album. So let's just say Scott's manifesting One I Want from Van Halen 3. And then by that logic, Tom is going to manifest Josephina, just so we can finish the album. But I do believe we still have just the one from 1984 left. So
yes, there's actually two. There's two albums that have one track each. 1984, House of Pain, and Women and Children First, and The Cradle Will Rock.
Of course, our namesake. So yes. That one, I just I want that one to be left alone until maybe another live show, or if we're lucky or unlucky, however you want to look at it, that should be, I think, our last show of this iteration, just because it would be poetic, I think. But It's not up to me, and it's not up to Corey. It's up to the wheel. Corey, what do you want to manifest tonight?
You know what? I came in tonight with no set ideas, so I'm just kind of looking at the list here, and man, we're so close to finishing off OU 812 as well, and I'd love to hear Black and Blue. I've manifested it a few times, but a little heavier Sammy tune I think would hit just nice after we've had a couple of Dave songs in a row here. Let's get some Sammy back on here and get Black and Blue from OU 812. How about you, Mark? What are you in the mood for tonight? Besides Amsterdam, of course.
Yeah, proxy vote, and it confirms Amsterdam is also being manifested, but that is not what I'm going to manifest. I really want to listen to. This is going to shock everyone because Corey just manifested a Sammy Hagar tune. I am going to manifest a Dave tune. I want "Light Up the Sky." That's what I want.
Nice.
I know we kind of got into a Van Halen 2 swing a little bit there, and I don't know. I didn't want to leave it. So yeah, I'd like to revisit Van Halen 2. I love that album, and "Light Up the Sky." I think that would go over very nicely. That being said, would I be angry if we spun Black and Blue? No, I would not. So take that for what it is. All right. So if you're ready, I'm ready. If Sammy back there is ready, how many times should we prime this wheel?
Well, we got 4 lurkers watching. What do you say we prime it 4 times? So we're going to shuffle it here. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, let's do it.
Here we go round, here we go round.
Oh,
Looks like we're going to go back to Fair Warning and One Foot Out the Door. Let's do it again. Sorry, I had my loop on. Didn't even realize it.
It's cool. Everyone, that was just the hype. You're so hyped to do One Foot Out the Door. So,
and did you see? Right. That was One Foot Out the Door was nestled in between 2 fuck tracks, Pound Cake and Spanked. Kevin almost got spanked.
And Summer Nights was followed up right behind Spanked. And I tell you, man, what is with this wheel and just not wanting us to do For Unlawful? It's almost a conspiracy at this point, but hey, that just means that I think by the time we get to the last bits of this particular iteration of the show, it's going to be all fuck album. And guess who's not going to be mad about that? This guy. So with Fair Warning, though, a lot of it, and I've mentioned it on the show before too, Fair Warning was another Van Halen album, at least in my earlier days, that I didn't really give a lot of spins to. You know, it just, I don't know for what reason. It was just, of course, you've got the obvious tracks, the hits, and you get those on radio airplay all the time. But just the album itself didn't get a lot of spins out of me. Don't know why. Just because just never happened. So a lot of my, for lack of a better term, education on Fair Warning has come from this show because I'm listening to these songs, and a lot of the songs I had heard before, but I gave no mind to because in my younger days, if it wasn't one of Sammy's albums or if it wasn't like early Van Halen, a la Van Halen's 1 or 2, and then the exceptional 1984, then it was just kind of like, all right, I'm not even going to bother to learn too much about it. But now that with my adult grown up brain, I like to think of things more analytical, and I like to consume as much musical content as I possibly can because I'm a fan and I want that knowledge and I want those songs in my brain so that maybe one day, not now, obviously, but maybe one day I'll be considered to have some sort of Van Halen expertise. It's not now, obviously, even as I ironically host a podcast about Van Halen. You guys know, not an expert, never claimed to be an expert, and I will keep telling you I am not an expert. I'm simply saying the more content from music that I consume and that I have in my brain, the more I can give you an expertise opinion. You know what I'm saying? Where as it stands right now, if you threw me into a room and said, all right, you're going to podcast about the entire album of Fair Warning from top to bottom, go. It would be a very, very short conversation because, again, my education on this particular album in Van Halen's career, a lot of it comes from this show, and it's not alone, because a different kind of truth, same story. You guys know, like Van Halen 3 did not even remotely listen to at all until this show, and it's been an experience. So, and you all have been privy to that. So, sort of similar with, obviously, fair warning, a much better record than Van Halen 3, but you've all been kind of witnessing my sort of intro education of really diving in deep to the tracks on this particular album. So this one is going to be no exception, because I don't have a lot of, at least by name, it's kind of going over my head. By the time I start listening to a little bit of the music, I'm sure I'll go, oh, right, that track. But we'll see.
And because this actually closes out Fair Warning, there's an instrumental in front of it called Sunday Afternoon in the Park. So as we're prone to do, we'll play that as well here tonight too. So let's start with that, shall we?
Is it just Manny Patinkin singing from Broadway?
Oh,
Sunday
man, we can only hope.
George? That would be awesome.
I'm thinking no, but that would be awesome.
Damn.
Let's check out a little Sunday Afternoon in the Park. You know, just this week was the anniversary of the death of one of my heroes, Roddy Piper. And this reminds me so much of the score of They Live.
I was going to say, before there was Daft Punk, there was Van Halen, because this sounds like a little like Daft Punk interlude. But yeah, no, I like your analogy better. It does sound a lot like Carpenter's score on They Live. That's amazing.
Kevin Brown said it even better. It sounds like C-3PO's finishing noise. So I guess that would be his...
when he gets shut down. Yeah.
Yeah. Or, you know, well, finishing noise, I automatically went to the sex reference where when C-3PO's fucking Chewbacca, this is what he sounds like when he's finishing.
I think you and I saw a completely different Star Wars.
Maybe. All right, then that leads us into tonight's song. First of all, I was right. Kevin was talking about C-3PO jizzing all over the world. I do a podcast with him now, so I know what kind of sex addict he is, so that doesn't surprise me that that's what he was referring to. But what did you think of Sunday Afternoon in the Park?
Well, not exactly the Van Halen sort of interlude instrumental track that I had imagined in my brain with that kind of title. But hey, kudos to Van Halen once again, subverting expectations. Am I right? But I actually really love that. I'm a big synthwave kind of guy. So anytime a band that I love incorporates more synth, it's okay with me. And as we know, Van Halen was or Eddie at least, was very fond of the synth keys.
And I actually found the make that he used. It was a cheap Electro Harmonix micro synthesizer.
I could see that.
Kevin says it reeks of shit. We need one more song.
Yes, it does, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, whatever. Let them do what they do.
Well, and this is kind of a half song, and so is One Foot Out the Door, because you know that's very short as well. It's only 2 minutes long. I always remember this from the bass solo that Mikey did during the For Unlawful tour, because it's on the Live Right Here, Right Now.
Okay.
So check on over to the Van Halen news desk because they have write-ups on some of these albums. And whoever wrote the write-up on Sunday Afternoon in the Park put this song has been described as a monster coming out of a swamp. And for good reason, with its heavy synthesizer-laden guitar and drum trade-offs, 2 minutes of auditory gore whose place is puzzling on the album, though never disinteresting.
It kind of, again, you know, you made the Carpenter reference. I think, yeah, that tracks. It does kind of give me sort of Wes Craven Swamp Thing vibes, although maybe that would have made it a better movie, but that's another conversation.
All right, so that leads us into One Foot Out the Door. Let's check it
Let's
out.
do it.
I got that telephone while we were alone, telling me there's company, your husband's coming home. I've been thinking about the Saturday night with you. I've been thinking about it all week long. And I don't wanna lose it 'cause that son of a bitch got me singing that same old song.
So kind of a weird segue from what we heard on the Sunday Afternoon in the Park into this much more urgent sounding track.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time describing how I feel about this so far because it sounded like they wanted to go back into the Van Halen swing that they do so well. Definitely sounds like that's what Dave's trying to do vocally. But yet if you listen, they still have that sort of that synthesized tone and riffage happening underneath it all. They're trying to play swing, and yet they still have the synthesizer happening. And I don't know if it's meshing very well to my ears at the moment.
Lyrically, obviously it's a typical Dave refrain of, your husband's coming home. I've been thinking about this Saturday night with you. I've been thinking about it all week long. Now I'm going to lose it because that son of a bitch got me singing that same old song. Got one foot out the door because he's got to fucking head out because the husband's coming home. There was a story that Ted Templeman kind of suggested one foot out the door because that was the pace that Van Halen used to record. Like they had one foot out the door and they got to hurry up, right? So kind of Ted Templeman's suggestion versus what Dave thought.
True, and I guess if you listen to the way this song so far is structured, there's some merit to that. Certainly sounds like they kind of throwing this thing together and it's like, all right, well, we're like, let's get this over with so we can get the fuck out.
Oh, and Tom says, read in an interview that Eddie said it was rushed because they were always on the move, being locked in the tour album cycle. Yeah, and that's especially in the 70s and 80s. That was a big thing. I think we alluded to it before, where bands literally had no time off. You went from recording the album, getting right on the road, playing for like a year and a half, 2 years, and then coming back in the studio doing another album. So this would have been, album 4 for Van Halen in that cycle. So getting pretty tired, I think, at this point. So I could certainly see Eddie's idea for one foot out the door as well.
And it makes you wonder, like, how long can the creativity still remain? So maybe that's why, in these later albums, or at least post the first two, why the steam was sort of kind of let out, and you don't get as many bangers as you got from Van Halen's 1 and 2 and things like that, because they're tired. They're doing the best they can with what they got.
All right, let's keep it going.
Got one foot out the door, time to hit the road. Ain't no match for your mean old man, I think it's time to roll. Got one foot out the door, got one foot out the door. Keep the motor running, don't you let it go down. Put it back to the floor, put the pedal to the metal and you beat it out of town. Coming back for more.
All right, so Kevin had a comment that I wanted to bring up too, and that it kind of sounds punky, has a punk vibe to it, really garage sounding type production. It almost sounds like Van Halen doing the Ramones a little bit, just in terms of the pace and in terms of the production.
Definitely in vocal quality for sure. Like it sounds like Dave is singing into a cheaper microphone. Or there's a specific microphone that I'm thinking of, but I can't remember the exact name of it. But not too dissimilar to what probably bands like the Ramones used in the studio. So yeah, I think there's some merit to that.
Oh, 100%. And then Tom asks, you got to wonder if they had more time between albums, what they could have been doing. And
it does make one wonder.
Yeah, the answer would be like 1984, because they actually had time off in between, because Diver Down came out in 82 and 84 came out in 84, obviously. So, and Eddie really wanted that break between Fair Warning and Diver Down and didn't get it because Pretty Woman became a hit. So, you got a little more polished album in 1984. And I don't know, this almost feels like a little bit of a filler track. I don't know if there is a filler track on 1984.
No, I would agree with that. Yeah, this one definitely feels just both of them, both the instrumental and then the leading into the song, which again, that sort of synth is following, and I'm not sure it's clashing in a cohesive manner for me. But they definitely both feel like what Kevin said, like, oh shit, we need one more song on the album. Like, okay, I'll do an intro for this. And this song is whatever. So what can we be done now? Can we leave now? Yeah.
Well, one thing we're not getting is really Mikey. We're getting a lot of synthesizer on here, but not a lot of bass, or that I can hear anyway. But the synthesizer, I don't think clashes too much with the song, especially during that solo there. And even Tom says, I love it when Eddie rips an on and outro, 100%.
Yeah.
Like, and I thought that was really cool.
The synth pulls back dramatically because Eddie's got to come in and do, his thing. So yeah, that's where it kind of finally dropped out. There is at least on my end, the low end is pretty hefty, but I don't know that that's actually Mikey. I think that might be a lot of the synthesizer doing the work. But I'm not sure.
And Tom says 1984, the song itself could be considered filler. It's basically an intro for Jump. And yeah, I meant more like an actual song with lyrics and stuff being kind of more filler. All the instrumentals are kind of filler, with the exception of like Spanish Fly and Eruption. But I mean, like, it's an actual track. 1 Foot Out the Door almost feels a little bit like filler.
So far, yes, it does.
All right, let's keep her going.
Just ending on the solo. It's a rare one. We don't typically get a lot of that from,
not a bad thing at all.
But there you have it. 1 foot out the door, because the boys had to get the hell out of there from the sound of it. That was followed by the instrumental track. What was the name of that again?
Sunday Afternoon in the Park.
There you go. Again, not with George. So no Mandy Patinkin on this track. So. Kevin says it's just really an unfinished idea. It does sort of give that vibe to it, but nevertheless, he says not bad, just not really complete. Well, that may be the case, but what I want to know is, how did Corey feel about this track? These two tracks really combined into one. Corey, I'm going to ask you, did you feel that Sunday Afternoon in the Park / 1 Foot Out the Door was what Dreams Are Made Of from Fair Warning, or was the afternoon cloudy, rainy, and just overall shitty, and that dream is just over?
Yeah, the combination of these two are not my favorite things about Fair Warning. I do love the movie They Live, and I love that it kind of reminded me of They Live and Roddy Piper. That was really great. But stylistically, they don't really match. You know what? Had I not been doing this fucking Genesis show with Kevin Brown, I don't know if I would have upvoted this, because we just did an album where Genesis did a suite of songs, and none of them lyrically make any sense together. So you would think a suite would have some sort of connecting thread, and it really doesn't at all. But musically, it kind of does. Here, musically, it's a little off, right? You kind of got this almost like horror movie kind of intro, right? Where you're expecting like Jason Voorhees to come out of the swamp and hack your head off. And then you go into a song about Dave being with a woman who's married and her husband's coming home. So, stylistically, they don't really fit, but musically, maybe a little bit more, they're a little more cohesive than I kind of gave it credit for initially. Lyrically, it's fine. Eddie really saves it on the outro solo. That's was the determining factor for me. And I really dug the drums and the synth underneath his solo. Like, I love that they kept the synthesizer going. It had a cool sound to it, and Eddie laid a ripping solo on top. That's really what kind of clinched it for me and gave me an upvote on both Sunday Afternoon in the Park and One Foot Out the Door. But Mark Kamier, I don't know. You had a little bit of a head bob going, but I couldn't really tell if you were digging it or not. Your comments were kind of 1 foot on one side, 1 foot on the other side. So the question becomes, do you think this is what dreams are made of, or is the dream over?
He's asking if I'm straddling my decision on the on the track, and the answer is yeah, but. Only because the track, I feel, and Corey mentioned it, but I'll reiterate. He said the lyrics, they're fine. And he's right. The lyrics, they're fine. Whatever. Not Dave's best, not his worst. They're fine. The song structure itself, the thing is, as much as I love synth and synth wave and the utilization of it musically, I'm a big fan of synthwave in general. So you would think the combination would be just an absolute dream, because hey, Van Halen utilizes the synth all the time, and there's especially after this. But something about the way they went into their whole swing style that they do really, really, really well. And the fact that they just kept utilizing the synthesizer into it, and it clashed in my brain a little bit. So much so to where I was just kind of like, I don't know that I'm ever going to revisit this song, because I'm not sure I enjoy what's happening. That being said, there are some really good things happening in the song, such as Eddie's solo, both in the middle, and his little solo outro finishes off the song with it. Great. It was almost there. But overall, I just kept thinking, do I really like the track, or is it just fine? And ultimately, it was just fine, but I felt like the buildup with Sunday Afternoon in the Park, which actually I really liked. I liked that intro. I was like, ooh, that's different. And yes, giving me the 80s horror vibes. Cool. Can't wait to hear where the song goes. And the song just did not go where I thought it was going to go. And I don't know. I feel like maybe that's just my own expectation. But it just the fact that you could feel this song be a filler song was a disservice, I think. But I get it. I can't fault them for the schedule that the guys had at the time, and the creative juices probably just weren't flowing like they should have been, because they just had no time and they were tired. It's honestly a miracle this song comes across as cohesive as it does. But that being said, it clashed a little too much for me, and I don't see myself revisiting it anytime soon. And only because of that do I have to say, for me, the dream is over. So I'm just preparing for the tomatoes and the, rotten fruit to be thrown at me,
Not at all. I found a really cool quote, though, from Valerie Bertinelli about this song, because apparently she inspired it. So I want to read this quote here. It's from her book, Losing It and Gaining My Life Back 1 Pound at a Time. This is a quote from Valerie Bertinelli. We only had a small window in which to schedule our wedding. After One Day at a Time, I went straight into the TV movie The Princess and the Cabbie, which was shot in San Francisco. Then starting in May, Ed was to tour for the rest of 1981. The stress of planning the wedding got to both of us. I remember Ed snapping, "God, can't you just leave me alone?" I don't blame him. Ed told me that I inspired the song Sunday Afternoon in the Park, a heavy grinding instrumental. He said it was us fighting all the time. I'm so glad I inspired cheerful songs, she said.
Sheesh. I mean, I can't speak on how people in relationships deal with their own issues. That's between them. But that does sound that's pretty harsh though, because it's like here's this instrumental track that sounds the way it does, as mentioned at the Van Halen news desk. It sounds like creatures coming out of a swamp. You said it reminded you of They Live, which is and then you're saying your wife inspired this little track here because Always on Your Ass is like, my God, dude, that's not heavy praise. So apologies to Valerie, but still, yeah, no
shade at Val. She is the best. I love Valerie Bertinelli. She takes way too much shit online and from assholes, and she really doesn't deserve it.
She really does. I don't get it.
She's a hero to my kids because she does the Kids Baking Challenge on the Food Network, or she did anyway. Oh. And they love that show, so they love Valerie Bertinelli, and so do I. She's fantastic.
That's awesome. Yeah. Good stuff. Good lady. So yeah, don't save your hate for someone who cares, which they'll never show up. But there you have it. A split vote, you guys. Sometimes this happens with Corey and myself. We just Corey goes one way, I go the other, and it's nobody's fault. It's just the way we are interpreting it. So, but the question is, how do you guys feel about it? So, be on the lookout for the poll. If you're listening to this now, then the poll is probably already up. Go take a vote. Go have a listen to One Foot Out the Door, and let us know how you felt about it. So there you go. All right, Corey.
Now, you are going to get off a little easy here tonight because One Foot Out the Door, according to Setlist.fm, they never played live. But they did play. They did play Sunday afternoon in the park. So Mark Meyer.
They did? All right.
And we're not even talking about Mike's bass solo. Because Jeff Brewer mentioned in the comments again that a lot of Mikey's bass solo in 91 came from Sunday Afternoon in the Park. Absolutely. But how many times did they actually play Sunday Afternoon in the Park live? I'm going to give you a hint. Never in 1991.
Okay. Well, it sounds like a track that they would use for like their stage intro. I would use it for that. So if that's the case, then they probably used it on so many different tours. But no, let's see. I'll say they played it a grand total of 50 times.
You're very close, but you went over. The correct answer is 77 times.
You mean I went under? Like.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you said 50, didn't you? Yeah. So you are 50. Correct. You didn't go over. What the fuck am I doing? I had too much choice. You are right. You win. You win the range and the television and the jet ski. Sunday Afternoon in the Park 77 times on the Fair Warning tour. It was actually nestled in between Dance the Night Away and Romeo Delight.
That's an interesting spot for that song, but okay. Yeah, that's cool though. Again, I would have made that probably my stage intro song for a while, but that's just me. I don't know. Maybe we'll do that.
Yeah, on that tour they came out to On Fire. So that's a pretty damn good opener too.
Yeah, you're right. Never mind. So okay, there you go. Yeah, hey, look at that. I didn't lose too bad on that one, only because
you won.
Was just
because you're the only one here. That's right.
Yeah, it's just me. I win. Yay! It's the one time I'll win at this game, but. There you go. 2 quick tracks, and we nailed it. Just you and I, Corey. So that's all well and good. But thank you to the lurkers. You guys are part of the show as well. So thank you for your commentary and how you keeping us in the loop about your feelings on the matter. But don't forget to vote. We have a Patreon, you guys, and we mention it every single week because we really want you to know about it, and we really want to encourage you to join it because Corey and I, we do some fun things, and it's only going to get more fun because, look, this current wheel of Van Halen tracks, it's running low. We still got over 30 episodes to do, but those are going to catch up real quick. So when that's over, what could we possibly do after that? Well, if you go to the Patreon, be part of our, find a tier that's right for you. We can keep the conversation going, and then there's the sky's the limit. And if there's a tier that you feel like we need that we haven't put up yet, let us know, and we will make that happen just for you. So we are not above it. We enjoy talking about music, and it doesn't have to be all Van Halen based, but if that's what you want, then let us know. Join our Patreon. I'm going to read off the list of our current patrons right now. People that keep the lights going, keep us invested. We're going down the list here. Matt Lacoste, Nate from the Deep Purple Podcast, Rava Flav, Josh Caldwell, Greg Zito, Michael Griffith, Chaz Charles, Sean McGinnity, Kevin Brown, Per Lineker, Scott Monroe, Ryan Powell, Jeff Brewer, Ben Andriozzi, Tarm Armbruster, Scott Everett, Don from Wabo and Cabo, and Heath McCoy. Thank you guys so much for being contributors. We appreciate everything that you do and keep us going, man. It's nice. We enjoy it. And I hope you guys understand how much we appreciate it. So, Corey, where can the people find other podcasts that they might be a little bit like-minded like we are?
Well, before I get into that, Tom in the lurker chat pointed out that when we mention the Patreon again, we should mention that Jay Brew, which is, of course, Jeff Brewer, posted an amazing clip of Eddie riffing on Mean Street backstage in 1992, and that is a fantastic clip. And that's some of the good stuff you're going to get as being one of our patrons, because you get access to the Discord server, and Jeff especially posts a ton of cool shit. Scott Monroe does too. Ryan always posts some good stuff. Please keep the conversation going in the Discord server. It's one of my favorite things. I don't get to post in there a lot because I'm recording every other podcast under the sun, but I do read them and I have a lot of fun doing so. But if you want to catch our show, first of all, www.podcastlerock.com. You can catch up on old shows. You can get some merch. You can yell at me and Mark. That's always fun to do. Check us out there. All the episodes are now going up on YouTube. We got a whole bunch of new subscribers on YouTube. So thank you very much, YouTubers, and hope you're enjoying the show. And if you enjoy listening to the podcast, you might enjoy listening to some more Deep Dive Rock podcasts, which you can find as part of the Deep Dive Podcasting Network, which features such shows as Backtracks, Aerosmith Revisited with myself and Scott Haskin. Me and John Mariano do a show called Backtracks Theme Music. And me and Kevin Brown are now doing a show called The Ultimate Catalog Clash. Season 1 is Phil Collins' Era Genesis. We're having a lot of fun with that. You can also catch my good buddy Kevin on 2 other shows, The Tom Petty Project and with Randy Wood at Seaside Pod Review. Scott Haskin also does the Uriah Heep Show, The Magicians Podcast. You can also check Nate and John at the Deep Purple Podcast, The Simple Man at Skinnerd Reconsidered, Terry T-Bone Mathley at T-Bone's Prime Cuts on the Other Side, Rye at Sabbath Bloody Podcast, Joe, Paul, and David at In the Lap of the Pods, Andy and Matt at Hawk Binge, Eric and Jonathan at Maiden A to Z, Daniel and Josh at Diary of the Madman, the Ultimate Aussie Podcast, Ben and Sam at Universally Speaking, the Red Hot Chili Peppers Podcast, George and Hattie at the Judas Priest Cast, of course, that's a Weird Al podcast, Clay and Rye at North by South Podcast, Greg and Jonathan at So Far, So Pod, So What, Quinn at In Volume for All, Savnik, Steve, and Mark at the Rock Roulette Podcast, Chaz and Greg at Regarding Lulu, and please check out all of our good friends at our other favorite podcast, including the Sean Geek and Fast Fred podcast. Sean is back from his big trip. They're producing new content there. Go check them out. You're All Doomed, a Friday the 13th podcast. Of course, the DLR cast, the Bogus Oda Show, Pod of Thunder, the recognized symbol of excellence in rock and roll podcasting, Booked on Rock with the legendary Eric Senich, Dissect That Film, and Three's Company 2, a rewatch podcast.
Nicely done. Thank you, sir. Yeah, and you can obviously follow us on Facebook and Twitter. I'm running that, or at least I'm trying to. So if it's very quiet on our channel other than the posts, just be patient. I'm sure I'll get on there and cause a ruckus. But until then, if you want to just yell at me directly, at Mark the Bat on Twitter and Instagram. For those of you, as a shameless self-plug, for those of you in the Huntsville, Alabama area, please join us over at Shag, Nasty's Grubbery, and Poorhouse over in Huntsville. We will be bringing you Rose of Sharon, a tribute to Killswitch Engage. That's right, my band, the Killswitch tribute band that I'm in. We're finally hitting the road, well, kind of, because it's only about an hour and a half away from me, so it's a very short road trip. But for you, it might be a long road trip. Either way, we're playing a very, very, very long, full set. So I'm going to need some support from you guys. So if you happen to be in the area or you have the means to get to that area, come on down to Shag Nasty's, Huntsville, Alabama. It's not just us. We're bringing our buddies Vulgar Display of Nashville, a tribute to Pantera with us as well. So you get a little twofer, little Killswitch, little Pantera, all your metal needs. It's still summer, so let's act like it. Come on down. August 5th, this Saturday, Huntsville, Alabama, Shag Nasty's. We'll be there, so don't leave me hanging. And that's it. That's the show, you guys. Thank you so much once again to the lurkers. And we always love having you guys around, keeping the conversation going. Even as Corey and I are talking and bullshitting our own way, you guys are still right there in the shit. And we love it. So if you guys want to join the lurkers, again, join the Patreon and you can have easy access. You got a Discord. Keep the conversation lively. Corey and I aren't done yet. He can't devour this podcast world just yet like Galactus feeding on planets, but soon he will. But before that time, we've got to get through 30 more songs. So stay with us, you guys. We are, and the podcast will rock, and we will rock you later.